careful. You might learn something.
Let's go.
You are now tuned in to the Factual Opinions Podcast with your host. I am Pharaoh. Straight facts.
What's up, world? This is your humble and gracious host, I am Pharaoh, checking in with Season 5, Episode 19. We're calling this Full House because we do have a full house. We may have another guest stop in, but want to introduce my regular panel of hosts, checking in with the Brown, Bruce Wayne, Big John.
Yes, sir.
The head varsity basketball coach of the mighty Schroeder Jaguars, G-Money, a.k.a. Will Johnson.
What's going on?
And the vice president of Factual Opinions Podcast has rejoined us with a few more gray hair in his beard. brother Will West, Nate in the house.
You know it. I'm back.
So a ton of things to get to today. I'm going to piss a few people off out the gate. Actually, we were going to set this up like around the horn because we have another guest that just stopped in.
There you go.
A Factual Opinions Podcast alum, Coach Cam Chancellor back in the house.
Oh, what's going on, man?
I didn't know if he was going to make it or not, man.
Nah, man, my bad. Nah, man, it's all good. Appreciate you bringing me on, man.
Yeah, this is perfect timing. Cam, we're going to get to your Bengals right away. But first out of the gate, I'm going to piss a few people off because I don't care no more. I'm just throw that out there. I want to tell Sean Puffy Combs to hold his head while he's locked up and do what you got to do, brother.
Right. He was sick.
Okay. Again,
Go ahead.
it is what it is. I want to tell him to maintain his head and pause.
I'm turning my camera off.
Look.
Read your books, do you push it up?
Yeah, y'all can do that if you want. Nobody's condoning what was shown by CNN and he did with Cassie in their relationship as far as physical violence. That's not what he was on trial for. And I'm going to leave it at that. So I'm going to tell Sean Puffy Combs, who as a businessman and music mogul, I looked up to for most of my life. And all the other stuff, no, I'm not condoning or co-signing any of that. I'm just going to tell him keep his head, do what you got to do, brother, stay alive. Also, on that note, want to give a shout out to Dame Dash as he continues to take strays from people around the world. Now, Nate is turning his face up like he don't understand why. Dame stands on morals and principles. If nothing else, nobody can take that, from him. You don't have to agree with his take, but as he said a long time ago, the honorable good man always takes the strays and becomes the sacrificial lamb. There were a lot of people that Dame looked out for back in the day that are not there in his corner, are looking out for him in his time of need right now.
All right, so let me cut you off a minute, real quick.
Go ahead.
I agree with what you're saying. He's taken care of a lot of people. He's done a lot of things for people. But Dame has gotten into this mindset of, I've done this and I've done that. And he's low-key been trashing on people, too. So we got to be careful what we say about Dame Dash right now. I understand. I get where you're coming.
The stuff that I specifically said, the stuff that I specifically just said and bigged up him for, there's not a whole lot of debate to. Now, we can get to his approach or his personal relationships with, certain individuals. Yeah, you can split hairs and go that route. But I'm just saying, even in the case with Puff, there are a lot of people that are taking advantage of a person while they're down and going through something that weren't brave enough or didn't have anything to say, previously, which I think is equally as corny in that situation.
I understand that with Puffer, with Dame Dash, he's taking a lot of heat because he's bringing it on himself by the stuff that he says.
That's what I was getting ready to get into. He's doing this to himself.
Any situation is different. That's fine. But I'm talking about just Dame Dash himself. A lot of stuff he's saying, and he's disrespecting people and saying certain things. Nobody was paying Dame Dash attention until he said something. So a lot of times he brings that heat on himself. But the other stuff
he has turned into a grumpy old man. You know, I'll give you
and low key a clout
that.
chaser too. Let's not just say a grumpy old man.
Okay. So I won't stay on that long because you know we got Coach Cam got to go to work in a little bit and a few other
work
things
third
that
shift?
Yeah, man.
Oh, you crazy. I can't.
a few other things I want to get into. The hot topic of the day. Have we started tagging people yet?
I have not. I'm doing that now. That's where I didn't got to. I just was sharing it everywhere first.
Okay. We know where we're going with this. Our beloved Cincinnati Bengals. And I want to wait because I definitely want to be looking at the camera and making eye contact when I do this. But I'm certainly trying to get everybody tagged and in here. Give my guy Curtis Robinson all these Bengal
Yeah, I got Kurt.
maniacs.
Yeah, I got everybody. You put Sellers.
I did put Coach in there. I got brother Reggie. I think he was already tuned in. Get
Tony
Rod.
on here.
Got brother
Kareem.
Dewan. Yeah, get Anthony Muhammad, aka brother Shabazz.
What's Kurt name on here now? Because Kurt said something earlier.
Worthing?
Yeah.
I can't remember because he changes his name so
Yeah,
much.
he changes too much.
But all right, so let's do this. So when all pro, all everything Joe Burrow went down a few weeks ago, everybody knows me both personally and professionally knows that I immediately stated that help was needed. Was not Brother Reggie said I've been called to the congregation. Yes, I definitely wanted you in here. I had to get my Lakers fan in here, too, because we're gonna talk that a little bit later as well. But I immediately called for help because I was not one of the people that was drinking the Kool-Aid and thought that Jake Browning was the long-term, situation for the length of time that Joe Burrow was going to be out. I fully expected Joe Burrow and still do to likely be out the rest of the year, just being honest, because I know how devastating that injury can be in a grade 3 tear to his, toe and the surgery that was needed to repair. So I instantly not only stated that the Bengals needed to go out and find a veteran quarterback. Now, I'm not saying that this team was set up similar to the example that I'm going to use, but I remember back in the day when the team that John used to root for as a kid, the Dallas Cowboys, suffered an injury with Troy Aikman during the season. And they immediately went out and got a competent veteran at the time named Bernie Kosar that used to quarterback the Browns and was actually the quarterback of the last time they were really serious Super Bowl threats, to hold the fort down and get it to a point where Troy could possibly come back. Reason Jerry did that because he had spent too much money, just like the Bengals did this past offseason, to let it go off track like that and the season go down the drain. I wanted the Bengals to do something similar. Everybody knows who I wanted, who most national pundits said the right choice should have been as far as both salary cap and just fitting in with the current personnel on the team.
Famous.
That would have been Jameis Winston of the New York Giants. Yeah, do it again, Big John. But that W tastes like.
I ain't doing all that. That's out of ordinary.
So I have my thoughts, but again, we're gonna set it up like around the horn, give each, guy a minute and a half to say, his spiel on what's going on and the acquisition that was made yesterday. The Bengals immediately out of the gate against the Vikings had the worst performance in franchise history, the worst loss ever. And I want to emphasize that because all of us grew up in the 90s during the lost decade. and that was against the Vikings, and it was followed by 2 more piss poor performances by Jake Browning. No, he's not the only issue, but it became evident that he's not, the solution right now to get you through. So the reports are that the Bengals did not even reach out to the New York Giants to inquire about Jameis. When they had their internal discussions, they went with the veteran, former Super Bowl winning quarterback, 40 years old, Joe Flacco, who was benched a few weeks ago after his performance against the Vikings, which looked eerily similar to what Jake Browning did against the Lions on Sunday. So much so that the in-division rival Browns decided that he was so much not a threat, we're willing to trade you to an in-division opponent during the year that we have to play again, and we're going to ride out the rest of the year with 2 rookie quarterbacks. We're going to start with Coach Cam. Cam, your thoughts on acquiring Joe Flacco and immediately inserting him as the starting quarterback against the Green Bay Packers this Sunday?
See, I think I look at it differently. Like I'm not up in arms either way. Like I would have been the same if we grabbed Jameis and if we did Joe Flacco, to be honest with you. We got to realize this, like Jameis Winston right now, whether we like he good for the vibes, he'd be fun to watch. The interviews would be fun on Mondays through Wednesdays. But at the end of the day, he a pick machine. And he's a 3rd string quarterback. Like, let's just look at it the way it is. He's a 3rd string quarterback with the Giants. He was a 3rd string quarterback with the Browns, who had to wait for Deshaun Watson and Dorian Thompson-Robinson to stink it up before he got an opportunity, and he stunk it up again, and they went back to Thomas Robinson. So it's like we are up in arms about some quarterbacks that we were going to bring in. They all stink. They all stink. Joe Flacco going to stink. If we brought in Jameis Winston, he'll have a few games that's hot, but overall, he will stink too. He will have them games where he throw for 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 1 for a pick six, and we'll be scratching our head like, damn, what happened? Jameis Winston done threw us out of a ball game. It's just what it is. I just feel like this is a lost season regardless. I am glad they went out and got somebody, but I just think whether it was Jameis Winston, whether it was Russell Wilson, which damn sure I did not want to hear those press conferences Monday through Wednesday. Like not even a little bit. So get him off my list. Like
Tag Gilly Wilson, by the way, on that comment.
I can't do Russell Wilson at all. Pause. I can't go. But
do that in there, brother.
Yeah, but overall, yeah, man, I just think this is a lost season. So whatever they did was cool, but between Jameis Winston, Joe Flacco, they both can't move. They both send ducks, and they both pick machines. So I mean, we brought somebody else in there just a little bit better than Jake Browning. Hopefully, he can air it out to Jamar and T. I think he'll know where the football's supposed to go, unlike Jake Browning, and we'll just go from there. But regardless, the season is over, man. So that's
okay. So season ticket holding brother Cam says that the season is over. We're gonna go next to G Money. Your thoughts on the Joe Flacco acquisition?
I mean, how bad was Jake Browning to the point where they traded for Flacco on Tuesday and starting him on Sunday?
Starting him on Wednesday, bro. They're starting this Wednesday, bro. He's the starter on Wednesday. He got here yesterday.
Fresh off the plane to a start quarterback at 40 is crazy. But, I mean, I wanted
Jameis 16.
I wanted Jameis. Cam made some great points, though. I wanted Jameis. I did not have Joe Flacco on my bingo card as it relates to the Bengals. That was a complete shock. I look at it like this. I mean, you can only improve from Jake Brown, and I mean, what he did was horrible. He was not good. even in the
I'd have
win.
borderline rather had Brian, not to cut you off, Brian McGrady of Schroeder behind center with what I was watching with Jake Browning.
I mean, I just think that Flacco got a strong arm. Zach said that he ain't changing the playbook, so he's going to want to throw the ball down the field. So at this point, I don't know. I'm still at a loss for words, man. I mean, I got some blame to go, but I know other people want to talk. But we'll see on Sunday.
Yeah, we'll get back to your favorite head coach that you finally had a come to Jesus moment on and realize what I've been saying since 2019. So we definitely
hold on before we go to the next person.
Over that.
I'm the one that said he was probably going to be fired after week 2. So
now,
I said that before the season started. I said Zach,
but it took you until leading into this season to finally say, well, if he don't get it done now.
Hey, I was wrong. Go ahead, man. I don't want to get
the cop.
I'm glad you
Will West the best, Nate.
I'm with Will. I want the famous Jameis. But at the same time, I do agree with Cam. At this point in time, it wasn't nothing to pick from. We're looking at the bottom of the barrel because we're looking at all the backups that really ain't had nothing to show. We're looking at backups that really didn't prove themselves in the last 3 years. That's what we had to pick from. You got Russell Wilson, who was not accepted in Pittsburgh, and then he went to New York, and then he got benched there. We had Jameis. He was in Cleveland. He was in Tampa Bay. Been the backup, and he's a pick machine. But at the same time, I just felt like Jameis would have been a better fit for the Bengals. But at the same time, like Cam said, and I've been telling everybody this week, bro, that's just a temporary fix. This ain't permanent. So that's all this is. It's just a temporary fix. This ain't nothing long term. But I ain't got nothing else to say about this.
And real quick on Jameis, which was another factor, and I told Al this off the record, is the contract. Now he got incentives in his contract, which I'm not saying this right. I'm not picking the organization's side on this. I'm just saying he got incentives in this contract that hypothetically say if he balls out and he comes in and he throws for all these
he wants
yards,
an extension.
Not even an extension. He got incentives in his contract that he can make up to $16 million. Bengals are not paying that for a number 2 if he comes out and balls. Sorry, they're not doing it. That's part of what they're looking at. They could get Joe Flacco for the cheaper this year, and hopefully they can win a few games, and Joe can come back in November. That's the goal. That's the hope for the Bengals. They're not going to spend. They're not going to put ample amount of money into a number 2 backup quarterback. They never have. They never will. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying they're just not going to put that type of, or potentially put that type of money into a number 2 quarterback. They're just not going to do it.
Go ahead, Big John.
I mean, y'all pretty much said everything, but I wanted Jameis, and I have been, jokingly a Jameis supporter. Everybody want to say he's a pick machine, which he is, but he also is a touchdown machine too. He would throw 3 touchdowns. He would throw 3 interceptions, and he would also win games. Even when he came out for Cleveland, he won 2 straight games, and everybody was praising him, and he was just in that. Then he had a fall off. That's just because Cleveland is bad. Period. It's just not just because of him. They're bad. Getting Joe Flacco mid-season from the division is nasty work. And he's 40. The next step he gonna be doing is the new Genesis commercials with Frank Thomas and Doug Flutie. It's a wrap, bro. Like, why would you do that?
Copperfist.
And Copperfist with Brett Favre, bro. Like, come on, man. Like, I wouldn't have done that. But like you said, the good thing about Joe Flacco is he is a veteran. He has won. He is very capable. But also, you couldn't protect Joe. How do you protect the other Joe who was really a statue that cannot move? He cannot move. Now,
Cam brought that point up earlier about if you thought the Bengals had trouble protecting Joe Burrow and Jake Browning, that Joe Flacco is going to be a statue, which he was never the most mobile quarterback to begin with, but at age 40, now, seriously.
Yeah, so it's definitely going to be a struggle, man. It's definitely going to be a struggle. But like I said, I wanted Jameis, and it really, like Nate said, it really wasn't much to choose from. So it's really
My cousin said something about Derek Carr, but I thought he retired.
He is retired, and he has a very serious, arm or shoulder injury that he has still not had surgery, on yet. So that wouldn't be a viable option. All I'm going to say to summarize that is why I wanted Jameis specifically from a talent upgrade standpoint. Everything that everybody said, even Brant earlier on NFL Network is true. I understand about the risk reward with Jameis and the level of interceptions and the gunslinger mentality. And I'm not saying he's the same player when I say this, but like Big John mentioned, Brett Favre was very similar, and that I'm just talking about the ability to even get the job done. Coaching and splitting hairs to that degree, and interceptions. Yeah, well, Jake Brown is throwing interceptions too, and they're not even close. There's some Bush League stuff going on at this point. Kevin said my mic is acting funny. Well, hold on real quick. Let me take these earbuds out.
It sound good to me.
I thought you was cool, but
I did too. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, wait. Man, Instacart expensive, y'all. God damn. Can you hear us now, Al? Well, can you hear us?
I don't think he can hear us, or we can't hear him.
Yeah, he can't hear us. Well, let me fill in then. So we go continue on with the NFL talk. Let me see if he's back in yet, because it sounded like trying to click back in. Nope, we can't hear you.
Go back to your old stuff, man.
Yeah, go back to your headphones. You was good. So I'll continue on. So we go continue to move on. I just feel like personally with these Bengals, the Bengals are like kind of in a misguided place right now. We still can't hear him, can we?
Nah.
Nope.
No, we can't hear him.
Al, go out and come back in.
Go back to the old headphones, man.
Yeah, either
go
one.
back
Yeah,
to
go
your
back to the
old
old
headphones.
You was
Can't
good.
hear you, bro.
He can't hear us at all either.
No, he can't hear us either.
Right.
He's going to have to go out of the studio and come back in. Hopefully it don't cut it off.
But yeah, they're in a misguided space. I just think there was a lot riding on this season.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a lot of, I think it's just a lot of stubbornness, man. I think the problem is everyone has egos, from the front office to Zach. Nobody want to make the necessary change in order for things to happen for them to win.
Oh, this was the question I wanted to ask y'all here. What are your thoughts on Duke Tobin?
I think he should go. He's horrible.
Cam?
Yeah, I'm here, but he's terrible. But the thing is about Duke Tobin is
he don't cost a lot of money. We know that.
No. He hands that, but when people say fire Duke Tobin, no one else will take this job. Like,
that's a fact.
You got to think. You got to think. If you're a GM out there or you're an aspiring GM, this is your job description. Hey, what's up, man? We interested in you being the de facto GM of the Cincinnati position because we don't have one. And sometimes you may make the picks. Sometimes we may make the picks. And if we wrong, you got to stand and take the bullets for us. How about the job?
Big John.
Marvin Lewis.
I wouldn't take it.
Yeah.
That's
Marvin
why
Lewis
Duke Tobin just continue to keep the job.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, though, and one thing I do like about a Zach, I mean, not a Zach. Oh God, what I like about a Jamar, what I like about it, kicking everybody out. What I like about
they
Jamar,
just clicking out and coming back in.
I know. What I like about a Jamar and a Joe and with the rise of social media is that they're going to be forced and pressured to do something and to continue to improve and grow in the correct direction.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I don't think they want to be the franchise that will waste a Joe Burrow.
Yeah, that's a
That will
fact. They
waste
don't want to be there because that's gonna
a
be
a
a
Jamar Chase. So you're going to have to make some changes, and the Browns have been making certain changes that they didn't make in the past, and I think they're going to have to continue to go in that direction. They have to stop trying to get cost efficient coaches. They got to spend some money and get a real. Get a
that's
good
a
coach.
fact.
They need a good coach. They need a GM. They need to be ran like a better like a normal franchise. They got to strengthen the scouting department. They got to do all those things because right now, man. And the reason why I say Duke Tobin has to go because the Bengals haven't had a good draft. Man, the Joe Burrow, T. Higgins draft.
I think that was the last good draft was Joe Burrow's draft.
Jamar Chase draft they got him, but the rest of them,
the rest of it was a dud.
So at this point, they have to start moving like a correct franchise, man. And it's over, man. Like I said, even with Zach, like I'm off.
Hold on, Will. Let me run through these comments.
All right. Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, we finally can, brother.
All right.
Hold on, Al. Let me run through these comments right here. So, yeah, everybody was telling him to go back to the earbuds. And Reggie said, bye-bye, Duke. Tony Bray said, Duke is literally part of the family. He's not going anywhere until Brown dies. Reggie also said it's ran like a mom and pop shop.
Very true.
And Tony Bray said our last best draft was 2021.
Yeah, like I said, at this point, man, they have to do because it's just been failure after failure after failure, man. And I hate to say Alex is right, man, but I was wrong about Zach. I was wrong about Zach. You was right about Joe, bro. I was wrong, bro. I was wrong, man.
Hey, we got to screen record this, bro.
I was wrong, bro. Because Zach is part of leadership.
I told everybody who would listen. I told Will. I told Cam. I said, just understand from a football perspective. I said they're winning in spite of him. And the biggest indication of what I was saying, just to put it in its most simple form at this point, now everyone sees how fantastic Joe Burrow is. That I got to put that in the jar. How fantastic Joe Burrow is that he covered up some of these, inefficiencies.
I don't care. I think he might be the greatest quarterback to ever live. I'm serious. Look at this. We go from a team that has Super Bowl aspirations to not scoring a touchdown in 9 quarters.
Yeah.
And a part of leadership is the ability to recognize that your way may not be working and I need to make a change. And for him to constantly sit up there and say that he does, he takes blame, but he said he's not going to change. That's insane. Like,
and he's not going to give up play calling duties, which is one of the issues that I had with him.
That's the biggest issue we had.
Some people, now this comment is a little bit dated, of the 2 leading candidates, which were Zach Taylor and Eric Bieniemy at the time in 2019, the detractors of Eric Bieniemy were saying, well, we don't know that he's ever really called plays beyond the college level when he was previously an offensive coordinator at UCLA and Colorado. And of course, we know Andy Reid has final say of play calling duties in Kansas City, but Matt Nagy and Eric Bieniemy had previously called plays as well during the course of the game. But that was one of the arguments against Eric Bieniemy. I said, well, Zach Taylor really hasn't, except for 2016 at the University of Cincinnati when he was the offensive coordinator, and Cam being the Bearcat football guy that he is. No, that was one of the most historically bad UC football offenses of all time. They went several games without recording a touchdown at all. And the only other time he called plays was maybe a 4 or 5 game period for the Dolphins in 2015 when they fired their original offensive coordinator. So there really wasn't a history of successful play calling with him either. And I didn't attribute anything that the Rams did when they got to their first Super Bowl with McVay to anything that Zach did as the quarterback coach. And if you need any evidence of that, just look at what Jared Goff continues to do in Detroit right now
That's a
and how
fact right there.
McVay's offense has continued in LA with tons of personnel changes. It really, I'm not trying to be funny, but it really wasn't anything that Zach did. And I was looking at his entire resume. I know he got his coaching start at Texas A&M because his father-in-law, Mike Sherman, was the head coach there and the former head coach of the Green Bay Packers. So when I looked at his whole career, an assistant wide receiver coach, and I'm like, there's just not a whole lot there that made him a viable candidate to me. Did he come in and change some things up and do some things from a different approach than, maybe Marvin, who was a bit more, old school? Yes, I will give, Zach that. But it was also Marvin who loosened the front office up to allow Zach to have some of the freedoms that he's had as head coach here. And let's be honest, you guys just talked about it. They did have some good drafts and held on to some people prior to Zach getting here. They had some bell cows like Joe Mixon, who everybody sees what a difference he made as well as part of this team. They hit on most of their free agents in 2020 with, people like DJ Reader, undervalued signings like, Mike Hilton, who came in and played some really good football, here.
Trey.
Yeah, Trey Hendrickson was another underrated signing. The first signing of Von Bell was tremendous. When him and Jesse Bates paired, they had the best safety tandem for probably at least a 2 or 3 year period in the NFL. So there was
Eli
a lot.
Apple.
Will always wants to bring up Eli Apple.
Hey, I ain't gonna hold you. I appreciate Eli Apple now, man. I ain't gonna hold you.
Who was better, Eli Apple or today's Cam Taylor-Britt?
I appreciate it.
Hey, I might have to say Eli. Right now. Right now.
I would take Eli
hold on.
And I got a Cam Taylor-Britt jersey.
Like Eli didn't have other DBs that can cover around him. It's just Cam Taylor-Britt right now. If you put people around Cam Taylor-Britt, he will be fine.
No, he wouldn't.
Yes, he would.
No,
I agree with John that I do believe if there was another solid, there was another solid number one, or at least an Awuzie on the other side that would, hold down the fort. Cam Taylor-Britt will give you what he gave you his first couple years.
Eli still got beat with all them around him.
That's fine. But the point I was making is again, there were other things that made it look like, Zach was running a more proficient show than he was. And all I'm going to say is it's not dumping on him even now, because I've been consistent in my criticism and not believing in him. But what I will say is, even in a scenario now where you do have your starting quarterback out and nobody's discounting, how much of a deficit that puts you in, there are other coaches that have had to deal with this and navigate situations like this. That team from Allegheny County that we all, despise is another one. I've seen Mike Tomlin win games with Charlie Batch and other backups, Byron Leftwich, and get the job done, get you out of the stadium. So it's part of the game. And my biggest argument is still, again, the Zach Taylor that you saw before Joe Burrow and without him in the times that he's been hurt, to me, is indicative of who he is as a coach. Just period, point blank. That is Zach Taylor. And the record that he had through his first, I believe it was 36 games or so, which was like top 3 worst all time in NFL history before they went on that run. It was like 6-24 or something like that. But it was like it was John McCabe from when he left USC and went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It wasn't good company. If Dave Shula has a better record than you or Bruce Coslet, so I'm not making up anything. Like, you can research that's my issue. And if he's not willing to hire a real offensive coordinator or give up play calling duties, look, there have been Super Bowl winning head coaches like a Mike McCarthy who eventually had to say, you know what, I need to step aside. Kevin Stefanski up in Cleveland, did the same thing when they went to the playoffs a couple times under him. So his unwillingness at this point to even, take a back step and remove himself as part of my issue with Zach and why I say he needs to go. And what has been really evident is until last Sunday, I do believe they were trying really hard last Sunday. It looked like the team had given up on it and he lost the locker room. I don't need to know what Jamar said to him when he approached him on the sideline. I can just go off body language and being a former football player, myself and understanding there is an issue right now. I've seen some of Cam's posts saying, yeah, turn it on.
Nah, it's time to turn on Zach Taylor. I mean, every player, it's time to turn on him. When Jamar Chase, they tried to cover that up and make it nice when Jamar said the other team know what we gonna do. That's a direct shot at the play caller and the head coach and who come up with these scripted plays. It's a direct shot at him when he says teams know what we're gonna do. I mean, there has not been a game all year where outside of trying to run out the clock where the Bengals have ran the ball twice in a row.
Nope.
So if I know that after a run play, a pass play coming, what the hell you think a defensive coordinator who make millions of dollars? What you think? They think they don't study tendencies as well? Like it
That
just
goes
don't
back
make
to scheme.
sense.
That goes back to scheme. Cam and I've talked about this from the beginning. He's never been a play caller that, in my opinion, really likes running the ball. That's why he felt like a Joe Mixon, the second leading rusher in franchise history, was expendable. When I said for years, the only thing that was keeping us at the same pace as the Kansas City Chiefs and above, maybe the Ravens and some of the other teams, the Bills that were clawing for that second spot in the AFC challenging, was our running game, was that we had a better running back than some of these other teams that were doing running back by committee and trying to get by. But it's just not a part of his overall scheme. And that's what Dan Orlovsky was talking about on ESPN. Not only did he say this season is over in his estimation, he said this iteration or version of the Bengals needs to be over, or you're going to end Joe Burrow's career prematurely like an Andrew Luck. The 11 personnel is not working. You need some more formations outside of empty where you're actually getting yards downfield. And that goes back on Joe, too, because he likes that empty formation also himself. But you need
And he
more
got to stop
protection
that,
from Joe.
man. He got to stop that.
I would love to see somebody come in here who actually does believe in, a fullback, or at least, motioning that tight end in more, sort of like we did when Uzama was here, to be that extra blocker and getting rid of the ball. That goes back, to Joe also, but it's an overall philosophy that you're not going to get with Zach. And it's not like he's going to change at this point. Like Will said, he's all but said that, but I don't know that he has the ability to pivot at this point either. And that's why I made the point about not just Duke, Tobin needing to go. Now, of course, that was a dream scenario for me, which I know will never happen, especially with what we just saw. But I said, if it was me, the changes that I would make is I would go out and I would get Louis Riddick to be my director of player personnel or de facto GM and actually let him do his job, because I do believe in him as a personnel evaluator from his time, in the NFL where he did that for a living. And, some people don't like his commentary on ESPN, but I do. I think he's a very intelligent guy. I think he knows football from the standpoint of being a former professional football player himself. And, you got to give him credit for, I still don't remember anybody saying that Patrick Mahomes was going to be what he is today other than Louis Riddick. I might be wrong, but I know that he was the only one that came out and said that, at least from my estimation. And then I said John Gruden being, the head coach, because I know what he did with Brad Johnson and Rich Gannon, and that's no disrespect to them, but I could only imagine what he would do with Joe Burrow and his understanding of football. Now, there's some other reasons why he would not be, an ideal candidate or may not ever be allowed back in the NFL at this point. But I was just keeping it strictly about football. And if you were trying to win a Lombardi trophy before Joe Uno and the gang hangs it up, or at this point, before T. Higgins and the Uno walks upstairs and says, I want to be traded.
Yeah, I think Zach lost the team second quarter against Denver. That was
for sure. Yeah,
that's when he lost. That's when he lost. And if you go back to my status, I was sitting in my hotel room in Charlotte, getting ready for a conference on a Monday night game, and I put it on Facebook. Yeah, it's over. Time for Zach to go. The team, the energy, all of those things, and then Jamar coming out saying what he's been saying. Zach's comments, all of those things let me know that whole locker room
They ain't fooling with him no more.
done with him. Like
Yeah, they are.
They like him as a person. They don't rock with him as a coach. And
so that's how you got the piano, the Charlotte conference.
Yeah, whatever you say. But nah, seriously though, they gave up on him in the Denver game. I tried to get a Minnesota game. I tried to said it was some hangover from the Joe injury, but that Denver game, and then then the game this past Sunday, man, it's over, man. They done with him. They got to make a move.
And I know that guys nowadays like those player coaches like Zach, who they can relate to and really isn't going to press the metal and yell at them, but so much, and they're looking to be everybody's friend. But there's a fine line between that. I've seen a lot of people, and granted, these are different teams, different eras that I'm bringing up. I remember when Phil Simms went down for the Giants, and Bill Parcells was able. Of course, he had a worldly defense. We know that. But he was able to win a championship with a backup quarterback named Jeff Hostetler. There are other scenarios where teams have been able to rally. And the reason I mentioned somebody like Parcells in particular, because he wasn't going to let the team fall off the cliff like that. It's a standard that's set no matter who's up there. When we've all heard that coach speak, next man up. Listen, as Tom Jackson said, there's a reason why that guy was starting. We know that. But as professionals in particular, you can't let one game beat you twice. And to speak on what Will was saying, there's been some carryover. There's getting to the point in certain games where you can see it on their face. They're just not believing in the system that they're under right now, the coaching, and they realize that because they're all still professionals. Yes, it's not the defense that we, had under Sweet Lou for, a few years, but there are still guys out there that can make better plays and make it more competitive with better coaching at this point. And honestly, I don't know that Al Golden, at least regular season wise, it was looking rough in the preseason. I don't know that Al Golden has done a terrible job at trying to hold it together.
He hasn't.
I think, they've held fort for the most part, but now it's the other side of the ball that's not
That's what I was going
support.
That's what I was gonna say. It's the offense that's been a problem all season.
The first half of the Lions game, the defense actually played well.
Considering the situations that they were continually putting in.
Turnovers, multiple 3-and-outs. They actually played well. So
that's what I thought. I thought the defense, if we had Joe Burrow, this defense was built to hold the fort and win a lot of games because they do get turnovers. They get interceptions. They get sack fumbles. This past weekend, it's not like they don't get turnovers. So could you imagine if we had Joe Burrow and we played with some leads and let Trey Hendrickson get after it, let some of these young guys that we got on the defensive line get after it? I think you would have seen even a little bit better of a defense with Joe being able to sustain some drives, being able to get them off the field, get them a break, not going 3-and-out, not throwing 2 plays into the second half, throw a egregious pick, a pick that I don't think any of us would throw right now today if we was in pads. Just being at the stadium, no one would have thrown that pass. No one. It's just tough on the defense, man. I think they're doing what they were built to do, which was to be able to play with a decent lead with Joe Burrow at the helm. We don't have that, and they're just on the field way too long. We're asking them to do way too much, and that's not what
they're definitely a bend but don't break defense. It's not.
For sure.
Ain't no game busters. Ain't no alphas other than Henderson. So it's definitely a bend but don't break defense.
So the best case scenario, gentlemen, not to cut you off, Will, with Joe Flacco is you hope that a guy comes in with his level of experience. Obviously, he's seen pretty much anything an NFL defense can throw at you at this point in his career. The question remains at age 40, does he still have live enough arm to get it done also? I know what he's been historically his career as far as throwing the deep ball, but I even had questions about Joe Flacco in his prime with the Ravens as far as the intermediate and the short stuff, when he wasn't chucking it down, field to, Jacoby Jones and company. So we'll see. I thought Jameis with the live arm and just the ability to get it to those guys that we paid all that money to in T and Uno and them being happy because they're involved in the game plan. There's nothing more frustrating than being a wide receiver running downfield for no reason, and feeling like you're doing calisthenics or cardio. It
But
just
this,
is.
but
Go
this is
ahead.
why I believe that Zach is like. This sounds crazy coming from me, but this is why I definitely think that Zach is the problem. Because the offense didn't look good with Joe this year thus far. Like Cleveland game, we blame it on the defense of Cleveland. Cleveland had a great defense, but the offense didn't look good. Joe, the first half against Jacksonville, the offense didn't look good. Then you insert another quarterback, and obviously it's going to be worse based on the caliber of quarterback, but
Brother Cam's gonna check out, y'all. He got to get ready to go to bed, get ready for
All
work.
right, you gotta go to work.
But that's what happens when you run the scheme that this coach is running. You become predictable. You become, you just become like Chase said. They know what you're gonna do. It puts your wide receivers in a bind because, like they said, Alex, you running down the field, you're not getting the ball. You put your offensive line in peril because they have to not going forward as an offensive lineman sometimes hurts you because you're always going back, you're always catching pause, you're always ready to, block. You can't, you can't
They
lean.
have to pass block 90% of the time.
Yeah, you can't
That
lean
puts them
you
at a
can't run the ball, you can't
disadvantage
lean on people.
also. But therein lies, like I said, the scheme and the whole concept. If they were going with Chase Brown, who I believe is a good complementary piece, I've said from the beginning, like he would have to be part of a real rotation. He's not going to be your bell cow guy, and you're seeing that also. Now, something I want to mention before I forget, Big Wit offered a take about the offensive line as well. And he's been slow to criticize the organization too, because he obviously, does still love the Bengals and the city. But somebody got under his skin on the Pat McAfee show recently, and I don't know if y'all saw that, but he basically came out and said that part of the problem with the Bengals is the offensive line and the evaluation of offensive linemen that they've chosen as of late, even when they have tried in free agency or through the draft. He brought up a stat that since 2011, there has not been a Bengals offensive lineman drafted by them that signed a second contract with the team. So I want you to think about that. This is 2025. And he specifically mentioned himself and people like Zeitler that they let walk. Now, that wasn't a good example.
That was misleading.
Yeah, that was a bad one.
Witt did sign 2 or 3 contracts here. So it just became a point at age 35 where they made a business decision. Now, it turned out to be a wrong one, and Witt got his Super Bowl. Kevin Zeitler's still playing at age 35, 36, also. But they did whiff. And let's go back to the Marvin Lewis draft, which was one of the few that they did miss on. They missed in the first and second round with who was supposed to replace Witt and Andre Smith. In the first round, they drafted Cedric Abwegi from Texas A&M, and they drafted Jake Fisher from Oregon in the second round. Neither panned out. They just flat out whiffed. And there were some other choices, in between there. But I never felt like when there was a solid offensive lineman, and I'll mention him as well, Billy Price didn't turn out to be what, they thought at center either. So there were some whiffs up front. But that has to be addressed too. We've had a couple different offensive line coaches now. They got rid of, Paul Alexander, the long time, offensive line coach, brought in Frank Pollock twice, from Dallas. That hasn't worked out. Honestly, I don't even know who the current offensive line coach is for the Bengals right now. But scheme wise, it's not working. Now I don't want to put him out there, but Big Willie also mentioned something like that too, which was a private conversation that we had, me and him. But he stated something about the scheme itself also, and it's not working right now.
The evaluation been horrible on many different fronts as it relates to the Bengals, man. Like, one of the things that sets your franchise back is drafting. Like, in order to pay these guys the money that they pay them, you got to be able to hit on some of these draft classes, and we have not been able to do it.
Particularly the first round draft picks.
First pick.
Like, we haven't been able to do it, and it's unfortunate, but
and I don't like singling guys out, not to cut you off, Will, but first and second round draft picks set you back when they don't produce. I mean, I can make an argument even in some third round draft picks you would like to, I
was gonna say the first three for real.
Yeah, but in particular, I'm thinking about guys like John Ross, Miles Murphy, Dax Hill, that were brought in to be replacements, so to speak, for certain guys that you knew were going to have to walk in free agency or other losses that took, because Dax Hill was supposed to be the replacement for Jesse Bates. We know that. And it didn't work out. Now they moved him to corner or nickel corner, whatever he's playing, currently. When you miss on first round draft picks, I don't care who you are, it's really hard to recover. Shamar Stewart is on the shelf right now. I really want him to come back into the fold because I saw some flashes of that athletic ability.
How long did they say he was out?
Drafting. It was week to week at this point, but he would help tremendously. But somebody, Blake Williams, asked me, because he was a proponent of, I don't think they need to trade anybody. I think they should just, essentially he was saying tank and go for a high draft pick. And I'm like, well, that's not going to happen, nor should it, just from a competitive standpoint and the money that they've spent as well. And
they get the draft pick wrong.
Right. Why would you?
That's another thing. How can you guarantee?
You can't even guarantee for tanking no more.
And all is not lost. You start at 2-0 and you're 2-3 at this point. But again, that was the whole point about trying to find a serviceable backup at this point, because you can salvage this season. So I don't believe in that. But he asked me, well, who would you pick? Would you go defense or would you go offensive line? I said, well, I don't trust them to go offensive line with a high pick, right now. Honestly, I would go back to defense, because you have to remember they gave Trey Hendrickson a raise, not an extension.
Right.
Mm-hmm. He's not going to be here next year. I can almost assure you of that. He's not going to be here next year. So you're going to need another defensive end opposite of Shamar Stewart. I still think they need a number one corner bad. You could argue that safety, the Bengals don't have a history of drafting safeties above the second round, but depending on how high the draft pick is, I could see making a play at a difference maker at safety.
This is
Brother
the crazy
Bell, he said we can't get a first round draft pick right at all. How does that happen?
This is the crazy thing. Our division is so bad that
it's pretty bad right now.
This year,
if the Steelers go on a 3-game losing streak, like
they in a 3-way tie.
You know what I'm saying?
The Ravens can't stop shooting themselves in the foot this
That's
year.
what I'm saying. So they're in the space and they're in the
situation.
But
hold on, y'all. It's the whole league. The whole league is an even playing field right
now. The AFC is down.
Yeah, the AFC is really bad
but
right
now. AFC has been so dominant the past few years that it was going to happen eventually.
But I want to answer our fellow Jaguar alum, Melvin Jones' question. How does that happen? Well, it goes back to some of the stuff that we were just talking about. And honestly, Duke Tobin's evaluation of prospects at this point has been lackluster. For everything that everybody wants to say about Marvin, he usually didn't miss on the drafts that he had unless it was due to injury or off, the field antics and things with his guys. Marvin had a philosophy, and yes, it was more old school, but it was solid, and it brought the Bengals back to respectability.
Yeah.
The guys that we did hit on during the Duke Tobin or Zach Taylor era was honestly just luck, in my opinion. Joe Burrow fell into their lap because we went 2-14 during Zach's first year.
Yep.
Jamar Chase, honestly, whether you drafted him or Penei Sewell at this point, they both turned into all pros, but it was a no.
Penei Sewell might not have turned out if you didn't know with the Bengals the way we do offensive
Well,
line.
with the coaching, that's a fair point. You don't know, but the chemistry and synergy that Jamar and Joe have was undeniable, and we got lucky with that. Did Jamar speed the process up? Yes, but you could still make an argument, as me and Big John talked about, that now that lack of building from inside out has come back to hurt them because Joe Burrow has suffered a couple devastating injuries throughout his career here because of the lack of protection. And you got to remember, even the year we got to the Super Bowl, and it's funny saying this, I still think that offensive line was worse than the offensive line we've had the past couple years, but we got to the Super Bowl with an offensive line that allowed him. What was that crazy stat against the Titans? Did he get sacked 9 times that game?
9 sacks, and we still won that game.
So he's overcome a lot.
He was at Nick House, and I counted all 9 of them.
Yep, you counted them out.
The team has overcome a lot, but that's how it happens, Mel, is what I was basically getting to, is that there's some bad scouting going on by Duke. And I've said this before on this program. It didn't start with Zach. The Bengals have had a history historically of going on trends, or I don't want to say not doing their research, but they do have one of, if not the smallest scouting department still in the NFL. Yes, they've made some leaps and bounds with that, but it's still small. It's still, as Brother Reggie said earlier, ran as a mom and pop operation, and that's part of the issue. So when you have a team, yes, I'm going to throw this shot out here. When you have a team like that team up north in Ann Arbor that, whatever reason you want to say, they got on that, 2-year run or whatnot, and people start going with a theme. They're like, oh, well, we must, start drafting Michigan guys, or we need to start drafting SEC guys, instead of just doing your homework and making sure a guy actually fits your system and everything else that you need to do behind the scenes. That's how you catch some duds. And as I said about, that team up north, it's not hard to look good on defense when you know what's coming, because, you have a verified sign stealing, scheme, and you have recruiting violations that allowed you to get a couple extra guys that, you shouldn't have got because you were recruiting during a dead period. But that's neither here nor there, just factual information. So all of that encompasses how you miss. Brother Chris said, just tired of seeing Cam Sample and Joseph Osai covering running backs in free space. Yeah, trying to cover very athletic tight ends, and that didn't work out, trailing by 2-3 yards. But again, that comes down to coaching and not leaving you guys out to dry like that. Again, I could argue that there's not enough playmaking at the safety position either, with Geno Stone and my 3rd round Roll Tide Battle back there, Jordan Battle, also, which leaves guys out to dry. So all of that is encompassed. Brother Cookie in the house said, horrible trade. We just traded for the dad.
Hey, look. I've been talking to my brother all day. He on the road.
He on the road right now.
Hey.
He called him Bob Saget.
I've been communicating with my brother all day. He on the road, bro. He ain't missed.
Hey. I saw some of Cookie's statuses earlier. I was reading when I was out and about, man. I've been canvassing.
He ain't been missing at all.
Nah.
Brother Turd in the house. And it's not that. I want to preface this also because I spoke to Brother Eddie, that went to school with us also earlier. When I say this, and the majority of all of us on this program, first of all, even Big John to a certain extent, because this is hometown team. Like we love the Bengals. Nobody on here wants the Bengals to do bad, wants to come on here and say negative stuff, but we are trying to be honest and voice our concerns. And being a diehard fan does not mean that you agree with every single move the organization makes. Being a diehard fan just means that you're going to support the team itself and the players no matter what at the end of the day, which is certainly what I do, what all of us, do. It's not against any one particular player or the team itself. I'm always going to rock with the Bengals. Again, I grew up with the Bengals. I'm a Bengals fan.
We
I'm not
Bengals
even
fans.
a Bengals fan. Like, I fell in love with the team with David Klingler and Harold Green and the rest of the squad that just can't get right. That Bruce Coslett, Dave Shula. I've been through all of that. So I've seen 10 times worse. It's my frustration comes in at when you start the season with Super Bowl or bust aspirations, or just wanting to make a deep playoff run because you have a Joe Burrow, the T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase, and some of the guys we do. That's the disappointment, because you start the season with expectation now, and something like this happens, and it's like if we were just scrounging for wins and we came into the season just wondering if we could be 500, or was Corey Dillon going to get 100 yards, was Chad going to do something crazy in the end zone, I can deal with that because that's what we grew up on. But that's not where we're at right now. Somebody brought up a good point. Joe Burrow's going to be 30 next season already.
Yeah.
But that goes back to my point when I said you can't waste his years. And when you got Joe, when you're that close, you have to come out of your comfort zone. In our reality, you have to come out your comfort zone. You gotta get a scouting department, a real GM, a better head coach. I'm not saying you're gonna go out and get somebody to the caliber of John Gruden or somebody of that nature, but you gotta get somebody with some head coach, a real head coach with some notoriety, with some skills, that's going to be able to lead this team. The problem with the Bengals, and I'm serious, from the head coach to the captains, the leadership is horrible.
And
our captains are not good captains. They're developing into being captains and to be players that you can follow, but head coaches down to the captains, no one is leading. No one is stepping up, and we don't have an identity at this. We done lost our identity. We need somebody in here to the you ain't gonna get to the caliber of your boy Mike Tomlin, but no matter what, the coach is gonna have the team prepared. Those players are gonna believe in their coach, and win or lose, that team is gonna compete. What I see when I see the Bengals playing is they don't compete for the whole game. When things go right, they're competing. But when things start going low, they stop competing. And the moment they stop competing, it's over. I remember even last year when they was playing the Chargers. They was playing the Chargers, and that team looked absolutely abysmal. And the offense went on a little spurt, scored a touchdown, and then they was able to pick it up. But Joe's body language was bad. Every player's body language was bad. Zach's body language was bad. As the Chargers was on the verge of running up the score. I think we got a turnover or something, and then Joe went down. I think he hit T. Higgins, or it was Jamar, one of them. And then we started rolling and almost had opportunity to come back and win that game, but it's just not there.
I will say that there are a lot of guys, and I won't even call them front running guys, but there are a lot of guys on the roster and so forth that are great when things are going.
Cam Taylor-Britt.
But you don't want them to be the guy that has to rally the troops when things are going bad. Yeah. And again, that goes back to the type of players that you're drafting. When I look back on it now, I used to get frustrated during the Marvin era, particularly early when we could not beat the Steelers and had such an abysmal record against them. But when I go back on and look at it now, Jeff Lawrence had brought this up to me. I was watching Ryan Clark and a few of the guys on the Pivot podcast, and he's had some of his teammates on there, even people like Crazy James Harrison, who has his own podcast now. But I want you to think about the type of men that they had on that team, not just on the field, but off the field. Solid dudes, Troy Polamalu, Brent Kriesel, Casey Hampton, just leaders all the way around, tough guys on the offensive line like Flozell Adams and stuff that just weren't going to let things go a certain way. Ryan Clark, demand accountability from their teammates. Then you have to go to the organization itself. We've talked about this before. We hate them, but you have to admire. Look, that team has been owned by the same family since their inception. Also,
Three
that
head
team's
coaches.
only been owned by.
Frank.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna get to that. But the team has only been owned by the Rooney family since they came in existence in the 1930s. Then you go to the whole stability of, yes, they've had 3 head coaches since 1969, and all of them won at least one Super Bowl. So it does start from top to bottom. And I have been a defender to a certain extent of Miss Blackburn and Mr. Brown on here. I don't let a whole lot, get said about them on here to get said on other programs. But seriously, if we don't win one with Joe Burrow, I don't know that we're going to see one during our lifetime.
I'm
They
doing one
can't
better.
mess this up.
Go ahead, John. You were about to say something.
What I was trying to say when Will was talking, and that I'm glad you actually said that, Al. Like, how many windows are we going to let close just because of leadership? Because the talent has been there, but the messed up part about it is now the talent is waning. We messed up the window with Carson. We had a window with AJ. Now we have this window with Joe. How many times are they going to let the talent window shut or the Super Bowl window shut because of leadership?
Well, we already at a mansion house already.
And one thing Will said that you said that I don't agree with, you can get a coach the caliber of Mike Tomlin. They gave Mike Tomlin a chance. Mike Tomlin, he was a coach and he did his due diligence, but they gave him a chance.
Defensive back coach. He had no previous head coaching experience.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. You can find somebody of his caliber. You have to actually do your due diligence.
I think we need to go get Freeman from Notre Dame.
That people will follow and run through a wall for. You have to.
But see, they have a history of choosing the right people in that organization, because most people wouldn't have even interviewed Mike Tomlin. He had no coordinator experience. He had no previous head coaching experience. They had to really do their research to find a Mike Tomlin and not just bring him in there as part of the Rooney Rule, where they had to interview at least one minority candidate. That means they did their research enough to where they went and plucked somebody from the Tony Dungy tree, and obviously he's from the Denny Green tree, which is from the Bill Walsh tree. It all correlates and makes sense to find your right guy, which is why they've had the stability that they've had. Mel asked, we talked about this earlier. You think Zach Taylor's lost the locker room? I think there's a lot of people, I forgot, was that Will that said it, where I do believe they like Zach as a person. I don't think anybody has an issue in that locker room with him as a person or his people skills or anything like that. But I do wholeheartedly also believe that they have lost confidence in him as a head coach, his scheme and his ability to lead them. Like that's done wholeheartedly. So yeah, it comes down to an evaluation standpoint. And like Big John said, I'm starting to get scared because the windows that we've lost, Carson, I've said it before. Now, maybe he didn't have the mental makeup or toughness of a Joe Burrow from that standpoint, but Carson, to me, is still the most physically gifted, talented quarterback that the Bengals have ever had. He was the prototypical NFL quarterback, from his size to his mechanics to, everything until
what was he, 6'4", 6'5"?
Knee injury, like 6'5". Boomer Esiason, for all intents and purposes, was another lucky pickup. We had Ken Anderson at the time, and you get Boomer Esiason, who should have been a first-round draft pick. You get him in the second round. He leads you to a Super Bowl, wins the NFL MVP here. We've had quarterbacks here. Jeff Blake made it to a Pro Bowl. As much as people talk about the Red Rifle, he was the first one to take the Bengals to back-to-back playoffs in franchise history. Went 5 times in a row. So there have been guys here who can play football, but I still say Joe Burrow is the absolute best, and he's got the intangibles to overcome some of the things that go along with being a Cincinnati Bengals. So that's why I'm worried if we don't get it done with him, it's probably not going to happen.
See, y'all looking at a Super Bowl. How many times this one is going to close before the team moves?
Well, look, that's the other thing. People want to talk about the Brown family until the ownership is, going to somebody else. Let me tell you something. If the Browns ever do get frustrated, and it probably won't happen during Katie's team. Well, I can't say that. She might get upset too after her father, dies and decide, hey, I want to move him to Orlando or something. I mean, she's even jokingly, threw that out there when they were doing the negotiations for the stadium, about that being a possibility. But her daughters, whenever they decide to take over, I seriously doubt they'll have any loyalty to Ohio or understand
Or
the history.
Cincinnati. No.
Yeah. But if they were to just sell one day, I can promise you whoever buys the Bengals will move them out of Cincinnati. And for all that tough talk down there at city council about, well, we'll just hold on to our stadium no, you won't. You won't get a new team. The NFL will not revisit Cincinnati if the Bengals ever left.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to go out on a limb. I think we have what they call an influence as far as fan base. So I've heard from numerous organizations, like we've heard from prior organizations that have come here and played, and they like, Cincinnati has one of the best fan bases in the country. So this is really, I think that'll be the only way that we would keep this organization here. But at the same time, I also understand what you're saying as well, Al. Money talk, bullshit walk.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I honestly think that if they ever sell, I think there's going to be somebody in the city that's going to want to buy the team, and they're going to do the same thing the Washington Commanders did.
I mean, what you said about
the lenders or whoever else could afford to do it, I don't know that they would do that. Again, I don't see it happening that way. That would be ideal. I just think if somebody from the outside, let me be specific, if somebody from the outside were to buy the Bengals, they're not going to have the loyalty to the state of Ohio and Cincinnati the way the Brown family does. You would be in serious danger of the Bengals leaving. So that's the only other downside to, if they were to decide. But honestly, I don't think they will. That's just part of the bond that they made with the original Mr. Brown, Paul, that they, don't want to give up this team and it needs to stay in the family, because of how he exited, Cleveland or was forced out by Art Modell after he bought out his shares. So that's a whole nother thing. But I want to move on because we spent enough time.
Hold on, let Big John go. Big John, what you about to say?
No, I mean, you kind of covered it. I mean, I'm just saying, like, yeah, just like, and it's crazy. He even said Cleveland, just like, Cleveland lost their team and their fan base kind of brought it back. Like I said, that if an outside person buys it, like Alex said, they probably won't come back to Cincy unless a home, town guy or somebody that does have some type of connection to the city. That's probably the only way. But I don't really see them moving no time soon. We probably gonna be old and gray before that happens, if that ever happens.
And, I'm gonna tell you who's got something to say about that. Gary Owens. Gary Owens is an influencer. He got a little change. He can present it to some people. So I mean, you got to think about that.
He would have to be part of an ownership group. He don't have enough.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I was saying we would turn into like the Washington Commanders. We would be in regards of an ownership group.
I'm just telling you, don't put it past becoming like Oakland and some of these other places that we thought could never happen. The only reason Cleveland got their team back was specifically because of historically what the Browns had meant to the NFL, and honestly, they haven't been the same since they came back.
But why wouldn't the Bengals be like that if they're historic too?
Because not everybody believes what we believe. I understand why the Bengals are more historically relevant than maybe the average fan does. But let's be honest, not a lot of people outside of Cincinnati or Ohio, I should say, give a damn about Paul Brown. Now they should, because he's I would consider one of the Mount
Yeah.
Rushmores of not just pro football, football in general. Paul
Football in
Brown
general.
won
Yeah.
at every level. He won a state championship at Massillon. He won Ohio State's first national championship, 1942. He won several championships with the Cleveland Browns, and he founded the Bengals and took them to the Super Bowl twice in the same decade. Like, Paul has a lot of principles, even when it comes to the X's and O's, that people still use to this day. So I get it. You got to remember the West Coast offense was created here by Bill Walsh when he was the Bengals offensive coordinator. The no huddle offense was created here by Sam Weiss, that people like Peyton Manning went on to, popularize and use. Like, yeah, the Bengals are way more relevant than the average fan understands, but there's not a whole lot of love outside of Cincinnati. We've just become popular for ratings and stuff in recent years, I think, because of Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow and T. Higgins, and you can't deny the excitement that the Bengals brought the past few years. But there's still a lot of Bengal hate outside of Cincinnati, or just they don't feel like we're relevant.
Right. And also they go back to what the Bengals used to be. Like Bengals we grew up watching. So a lot of the old veterans can't get that out of their brain. Now
Shannon
some of the
Sharp,
veterans,
Keyshawn Johnson, they still had
now
that muscle
some of
memory.
the new veterans, even Ryan Clark, who played against the Bengals for years, even gives them credit. But it's a stigma that follows the Bengals because of just the Bengals.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be the biased one in this. I feel like the Bengals wouldn't be moved just because of that division. The division is based off of the Bengals, Cleveland, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. I don't feel like they would move this division. That's why I'm saying I personally feel it might be my feelings involved as well. But at the same time, I feel like we reflect this division as well.
Yeah, I mean, we originate from the old AFC Central division, which used to
That's
be
what
the
I'm
Browns,
saying.
the Bengals, the Steelers, and the Houston Oilers, which became the Tennessee Titans, who were still part of the division until they mixed the Ravens in there. I mean, we're ingrained in the history, just like there are certain teams that people expect and want to win. There are certain teams that people expect and want to lose also. And the Bengals have been fighting that issue for a long time. But that's the part that pisses me off, is because we're talking about, we always joke about growing up during the lost decade that we all endured. But prior to that, even from when the Bengals originally came in, they were never a bottom feeder team. I mean, that's why people like Chris Collins, where people say he's a hater or whatever. But I talked to him personally when I used to work at Dick's Sporting Goods when I was in college, and he would come in there all the time. And I even asked him one time, I said, well, why are you so hard on the Bengals, even on the air and stuff? And he said, you got to understand. He was like, I lived that. He was like, I still live here. He was like, that was a total different caliber of organization when I played and when I was under the original Mr. Brown. And he said what I said earlier. He said, I went to the Super Bowl twice in the same decade during my career. He said a lot of players play their whole career in the NFL and don't go once. It's like, so I was used to a certain level of play, and when that fell off, and it does correlate when the current Mr. Brown, took over. It just is what it is. A lot of people became used to the Bengals being bottom feeders, but again, they shook that really when Marvin got here. Like,
Yeah.
Marvin was the reason why they became respectable, and he ended that 15-year winless season, stretch. So there should be, as John said, a whole bunch of people that don't have that outlook or muscle memory in their head. But some of them, like I said, Shannon and them that played during that era, they're just never gonna get it out of their head. So
I'm glad when you was talking about your former place of employment, you added sporting goods at the end. Good job.
It's gotta be you. It gotta be always you, bro. It's always you. It's always
Goodness
you.
gracious.
And he's an educator.
That is wild. You said you worked there, though. That's why.
Yeah, well, I definitely did include the whole name of the organization. So
good job. Good job.
Yeah, we can move on from.
We ain't gonna be bad. We got you, bro. You good?
Hey, bro.
Because we're gonna close out on a few things as far as we get to the NBA, but I do want to do this, and I have to do it myself sometimes because y'all will do the Roy and Maul thing like they used to do on the Joe Button podcast on certain topics they didn't want to talk about. People get quiet and clam up. I'm glad I got Nate back on here this episode because at least he'll talk about the number one ranked team in college football right now with me. So John's boys are ranked in the top 5 now. The Miami Hurricanes are
They're
putting
number
together
2. They right behind us.
an impressive season so far. Now
John,
John
can
is
you give them
still
their props
cautious.
now?
No, he ain't
Nope.
gonna do it.
Nope. The reason why, brother, they build me up to let me down. So until they do something, no, they cannot. And I
I
love
like
him.
Carson Beck as a quarterback, man. He do good down there, man.
No, he's doing what I said at the beginning of the season that I said to Cam Ward, but obviously Cam Ward didn't listen. Be Ken Dorsey. Distribute, get the ball to your playmakers, do what you got to do. He's doing that. And that's why he's successful. Cam
John,
Newton,
they're undefeated right now, and they are playing some really good ball. I think their ECC is manageable this year. You know, we'll see what happens. They beat all the Florida teams.
Got to lose to Georgia Tech and Syracuse.
Well,
that's the problem.
Syracuse
you beat up on Florida State, you beat up on Notre Dame, you beat up on teams you shouldn't beat up on, but then you turn around and lose to South Corner of Louisiana State.
Well, maybe this is the year where they
I
turn
don't
the
think
corner.
this is the year for that, man. You got some dogs on that defense. I do like the killers on that Miami defense, and I think you just dumbing them.
No.
You just ain't giving the props when they need to be due right now.
Beck has a better defense than the Cam Ward had. Most definitely, he does.
Yes.
I like number 10, the young guy, the freshman. He's a dog. I like Daniels. They got from LSU. He proven himself. They always had a decent running game. Cristobal gonna make sure the offensive line is good because that's where he does his business.
His bread and butter.
They're playing well. That's probably all the credit I'm gonna give them.
Wouldn't it be something if we had an Ohio State Miami national championship again?
I think this the year.
And this year we don't have to worry about no excuse about no pass interference call or nothing else.
You see you see who bringing this up? I did not bring this up. No, I don't want to see that.
Because people have been talking about that. And have taken away every other aspect that attributed to what happened that game, including Miami overlooking Ohio State, including Miami trailing for 80% of that game.
Once again, Will, you see I'm not bringing this up, right? You see I didn't say nothing about it.
I'm just saying if it happens, I would love for that to take place and we don't have any excuses this time. That's all I'm saying.
Alex know they was gifted that national championship. He can talk.
They weren't gifted anything.
He can talk. I
watched that game over 100 times. And okay, Jonathan, just answer this. Please, just answer this. Did I say Ohio State was going to win that game before it happened? When everybody else in the world said they had no chance, but did I say they were going to beat Miami and why? And I've been on record to say if they played that game 10 more times and Willis McGahee doesn't get hurt, that Miami might win 7 or 8, times. But I was talking about that specific day. And I don't have to get into the other reasons why I said Ohio State was going to win that game, but I can. But if we're going to attribute it to one call, like Ohio State wasn't winning damn near that entire game outside of Miami scoring first.
This is why football player, a W is a W. I'm not debating that. But one thing I will say is, one thing Alex is correct about, Miami had a chance to win. So did Ohio State. The only thing I've ever brought up was the call at the end of the game. That's it. That should have never been made. But that's fine. They still had a chance after the fact to win. They didn't do it.
Hey, Big John, why you look like you got ghosts in your backyard?
I keep saying that, bro. Every time.
I'm in Barn Hill now. It's a lot of those.
Hollow over there.
Back jumping.
Right.
We're getting sidetracked.
Like I said,
I don't want to talk about the clip that wasn't called on the punt return that Roscoe Paris got to get Miami in field goal territory to kick. Let me finish the game time field goal to go into overtime because again they were trailing before the pass interference call in overtime. They had to kick a field goal that they barely made to tie it 17-17 to go into overtime for any of that to take place because, again, Miami was trailing.
It's going to be tough to beat the 2025 Ohio State Buccaneers, bro. I mean, the Buckeyes. My fault. It's going to be tough to beat
Buccaneers.
them.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
You had it right with the last team Tom Brady had. They probably built the same. All the money they spent, they probably built the same.
The defense, Ohio State defense is better than it was last year. And their last year defense,
and that's crazy saying that because of the studs that they had on defense. But let's give credit where it's due, partially due to the and then this guy. I really don't want to hear anything from you this episode, Tony, because
why you even click them?
Michigan football.
Why did you bring that?
I'm doing it for a reason. Y'all not letting me finish because this can turn into a clip. I'm doing it for a reason and why I clicked on it. Because I text Triggs on Saturday after trying to watch that team up north play football. And I will admit, growing up, they at least had an entertaining brand of football that I could, watch. There was Charles Woodson, there was Ty Law, there was Anthony A-Train Thomas, Braylon Edwards, Mike Hart. Again, I know as much about Michigan football as I do Ohio State, but it was entertaining to watch, even if you didn't like the team. Lloyd Carr is rolling in his grave right now. Jim Harbaugh was the best and worst thing to happen to that program because he brought them out of the almost 2-decade fall that they had for that farce of hiring Rich Rodriguez, but he also made Michigan football unwatchable at this point. And I don't even mind the ground and pound style. Like, that's the Big Ten football that I can watch. But there's absolutely no entertainment value whatsoever, even with this alleged phenom that people wanted to, say was a cross between Tom Brady and Cam Newton, which I've yet to see that at all when watching Bryce Underwood, so far this year. But I don't want to hear anything because there's nothing to talk about. Tony, you said who have they played? Well, again, they opened the season with the team that most people said was supposed to be ranked number one. And before you go there and say, oh, well, they just lost to Florida to 2, at the end of the day, they're not the same team that they were at the beginning of the season. I think part of that is because they got punched in the mouth and lost that opening game. But you say that, they still have a Big Ten schedule to go through just like Michigan does, including this Saturday when they play a ranked Illinois team that began the season ranked in the top 15 and is still ranked in the top 25. So stop acting like I'm dodging a question when I'm not, because we're not even halfway through the season. And again, you have to play the team. He said something about who the Buckeyes played, the teams on their schedule.
No, that's what I'm saying. I said that.
And until they lose to a team that they're not supposed to or don't qualify for the playoffs, then what are we talking about? They're playing the teams that are on their schedule, and that has nothing to do with how they're playing football. Yeah, now, if they lost to one of these teams that I guess you're insinuating who they played, or went out on the road and lost to, Washington, who had Harvard 20-something game home streak, winning streak going, then I would expect you to say something. But if they haven't, and they just now opened up their playbook and let Julian Sands start playing, football, which is bad news for the rest of the country, then okay, then say something when they lose. And like Brother Webster said, didn't they lose? So yeah, they went out there and lost with this flashy freshman quarterback that, was quoted as saying, oh, ain't nobody never seen a freshman like me, and I'm this and I'm that, talking about himself. And again, I've yet to see any of that. He's okay. He's an athlete. I can see certain flashes of why people.
Go ahead and say the word. Say the right word. He's mild.
I mean, I'm not even trying to take personal shots against Bryce Underwood at this point. I'm just saying he's okay.
He's mild.
He's okay. He's done what I expected.
Like B-Dub sauce is mild.
Now he want a
mild sauce.
When I just cooked him, he said, "You'll see in November."
Ain't nothing to talk about right now. Don't y'all got a loss?
Because he just
they got a loss, don't they? They got a loss, right?
Yeah, I mean they lost to Boomer Sooner. Yeah.
I'm just making sure. I ain't tripping. Because he talking like they done won already. It's mid-season. I'm worried about Miami before I'm worried about Michigan.
Hey man, y'all just let him. You on mute, John.
Don't worry about Miami. Leave Miami alone. Don't leave them alone. We got enough of them. Leave us alone.
Y'all look good against Florida State. I ain't gonna
Nah,
hold
bro.
y'all.
No. Leave us alone. We good.
All right.
Y'all just let Tony turn y'all up, bro. Y'all
So
crazy.
you believe Oklahoma's the number 16, but I guarantee he didn't bring up what I said. I guarantee you'll detract from Texas right now because of their second loss, or what playing Penn State will mean because of their second loss. But you gonna hold Oklahoma up there, who ain't played nobody in the overrated Confederate States of America conference. All right. So anyway.
Let's go to this NBA, man. Let's talk about this NBA.
Beat Michigan.
Yeah, he didn't grind my gears. Tony don't never get to me, but he didn't grind my gears.
Beat Michigan State.
Y'all
run your schedule where you don't play Penn State this year. Again, like I said, I know as much about that team up north as I do Ohio State. So let's stop talking like, the one team that Michigan has played that has a pulse this year didn't beat them, because they did. So talk to me when y'all play somebody that has a pulse at the end of the day, with this freshman phenom that I told you I wasn't going to come in and set the world on fire.
Remember, I mean, give a young man a chance. I'm not going to talk bad about him yet, but nevertheless.
Nobody.
I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you are. Relax. What I'm saying is,
y'all let Tony create beef, man.
Hey, relax. I'm not saying you.
Because he ain't saying that. He's just trolling because for whatever reason he was born in Southwestern Ohio and he supports, a team in the state of Michigan. Like whatever.
Every team, Tony like he a front runner. Every team, Tony like.
I'm telling you, man, it's almost embarrassing to say I'm a Lakers fan when you got people like
Tony gonna come out in
like
2 more
the
years.
Patriots.
He gonna come out in 2 more years and say you like Kansas City. It's gonna be the same thing.
Probably.
But nah, man.
He don't like no team that struggled or went through adversity. I can tell you that. Every team is a front running team.
He a Michigan fan.
That's the only bad team.
Yeah, the team with the most wins all time in college football history and 12 national championships.
Before they had face masks.
I mean, but you did just talk about the Rich Rod years, and it ain't like Tony 70.
Yeah, I didn't hear much from Tony back then, so I don't know.
But nah, man. Like I going back to the quarterback, get a young man a chance. Michigan just not good right now. Even though he may be good, they don't have a lot around him right now. Give him some time.
Tony tried to go out the big job. He said, John been denying being a Bengal fan for 5 years now. He said he's a Bengal fan talking about front.
Who said that, Tony? Who said that?
Hey, he got y'all.
Who said that?
Hey.
No. See,
I'm not. GOAT.
First of all,
Tony is the GOAT.
No. Will you give him too much credit? I laugh at Tony. I'll take Tony no mind. First of all,
I ain't paying Tony no mind either because he's
Tony know how to grasp the gears.
I didn't say nothing. You can go back and watch.
Y'all just dedicated the last 10 minutes to Tony.
Who is y'all?
Nobody around the country. What happened is we get sidetracked like we usually do, and we don't spend enough time talking about the world famous like we're supposed to on this program for obvious reasons. And I be needing teaser clips doing that. And nobody helps me out.
I was talking about Ohio State's defense, and you went to Tony. I was just saying that they defense this year is better than the defense last year, which is crazy based on who they lost. And then you went to Tony.
And I don't even defend them. And I was about to say, bro, and I was about to give y'all props. Like, I was about to say, bro, what are you talking about? Who have they not played? Like, I was about to help out. And you just went on the spiel because Tony.
So, anyway, Nate, I want to give credit to because Nate asked about Bo Jackson last year during the recruiting process, and I talked to him about Bo Jackson. Now, I didn't expect him to be an impact player as early on as he has been, but he has clearly put a stranglehold on that starting running back position for the Ohio State as a true freshman. Bo Jackson is really getting it done out there right now. And again, you can't have that nickname as a running back unless you that dude. That's just one of them where you can't do it. Be called Bo Jackson. But I'm really impressed with the freshmen out there. The defense, as Will said, has been doing some magnificent things with Matt Patricia. He has left a lot of offensive coordinators flustered and not knowing what to do. And he's made the complicated very simple where the guys are able to play and they're not out there thinking. That is the only criticism that I had sometimes with Jim Knowles is I felt like there was too much thinking. There were guys that if one player missed, there wasn't a guy behind them to fill a hole or anything with that 4-2-5 scheme. Matt Patricia has brought it back old school, but yet with some Bill Belichick principles out there defensively. Oh, and I wanted to talk about that before we pivot away from college football. Was Bill Belichick the wrong hire in Chapel Hill?
Yes. He's almost 80. He don't need to be coaching college. It's over. Especially when you've been a pro coach for majority of your life. You won't, especially this generation of college kids. He tripping.
It's just not looking good in Chapel Hill.
Hey, did we did?
Was he having financial issues or something? Because why did he take this job?
No.
Oh man,
Not
hey,
at
listen.
all.
I don't know, man. His
No.
girl only 28.
Absurd. That is absurd.
I do want to shout out Alabama for beating Georgia a couple weeks ago, though. I don't think we talked about it last week. That was a good win because I think they coach job was on the line, in my opinion.
It was. It definitely was.
That was a big win, broke Georgia's
Win streak.
Win streak at home. So I know you don't like talking about the Confederate Conference,
Confederate
but
States of America Conference.
Yeah. But that was a good win. I was talking their coach.
Shout out to my cousin Bernard down there in Birmingham and brother Dewan, who is a Roll Tide fan up here. They did have an impressive victory. SEC is all over the place. Tennessee still can't beat Georgia to save their lives. That was another big game that happened in that conference. I'm not opposed to speaking on them a little bit. I just won't get them too much airplay here because I wanted to talk more about what I believe is the best conference in college football. I'll tell you something else before we pivot. Indiana, under their current coach, isn't going anywhere. They are a good football team and will continue to be. They have to wonder about, are they a football school all of a sudden now? Because it's definitely not the Bob Knight days on the hardwood out there. So, but I wanted to shout them out because they are going to be a factor in the Big Ten this year as well. James Franklin, because before Tony did his thing, I wanted to talk about James Franklin because I have been a consistent supporter of James Franklin and tried to remind people what he's done in Happy Valley outside of not beating Ohio State, which again, if you're not D'Antonio or as of late, that team up north, there's not a lot of schools that could say we beat Ohio State in the Big Ten. But his record against ranked opponents cannot be overlooked anymore. It's abysmal. I tried to throw him a rope because he did come one quarter away from advancing to the national championship last year, whether people want to acknowledge that or not. They probably should have beat Notre Dame that what was it, college football playoff semifinal last year.
Yeah.
So he did do a good coaching job at that point, but losing to Oregon at home, I still think that's a game that Penn State should have won, particularly with all the expectations and talent that they do have this year. But like we talked about with our beloved Bengals earlier, allowing one game to beat you twice, going out and losing to UCLA on the road that just fired their head coach a couple weeks ago, and it's completely in a tailspin as far as a program that also had prestige and previous history, was unacceptable. James Franklin, outside of running the table, me and John talked about this off the record yesterday. Outside of running the table and winning the Big Ten title, which looks kind of unlikely at this point, should his job be in danger in Happy
It's over
Valley?
with.
But like me and Alex had talked about off the record, like that job is kind of like the Pittsburgh Steelers thing. I mean, even though Joe Pa had it for 1,000 years, it's like they don't really get rid of coaches like that. And when they did do it, it was like an interim thing. So they're gonna have to find their guy and stick with it. But it may be over, and they may just keep him there until they find that person. But yeah, it's not looking good for him. It's definitely.
My question is, you get rid of James Franklin and get who?
That's what I'm saying. Who do you get? Like there's like nobody right now that I can even see fitting that coaching job right now. Like, yes, it's a prestigious job. It's Penn State. They're a blue blood program, but it's like, who are you going to get to push them to that next level? Because obviously Franklin has them competing and respectable, but he hasn't pushed through yet to do what he needs to do. When you come out and you have the second-ranked team in the nation, you lose to Oregon. Okay, cool. That's Oregon. But then you turn around and use the UCLA. Like you can't, that doesn't go away. So, like Alex said, who are they going to get? Who is going to be the next person that's going to lead them for the next 8 or 9 years?
Because I don't know with the back-to-back losses that they've had, and probably the team's state of mind, and just going into the season knowing that you needed to slay the dragon, but you played the dragon in its home lair or home field this year. Speaking of Ohio State, I don't know that Penn State is going to be able to do that. So now, if they drop that game on November 1st in Columbus, you're talking about a 3-loss Penn State team at the very least. And that's provided they don't lose any more games the rest of the season. They probably won't make the college football playoff with 3 losses. They just got removed out of the top 25. So they're in a very bad spot right now. And James Franklin is going to have to do the coaching job of his life to save his coaching life in Happy Valley, I think. So I can't defend him anymore because, again, I don't have that exact stat, and I had it earlier, and I wish I had it up. But if you look up James Franklin's record against ranked opponents, yeah, there's something to be desired there at this point. So moving on from that, I want to wrap up with the NBA talk. We got the NBA coming back on NBC. Nostalgic for all of us that grew up seeing that. Now, it's not going to be the same because there's no Bill Walton, there's no Bob Costas, there's no Marv Albert calling the games. But Mike Tirico and Reggie Miller are good at what they do. I think they'll do a good job from the actual announcing and broadcasting standpoint. Will the players hold up and actually compete during the regular season and make it? But his wheels already shaking his head. No, I agree. We had to change the NBA All-Star format because guys don't want to play basketball anymore, what they get paid to do, to where it's going to be the NBA All-Stars versus, the World All-Stars, the European All-Stars, something like that. Expectations for the NBA this year. We got Tyrese Halliburton.
It's World
All-Stars. We got Tyrese Halliburton is out. Jason Tatum's probably going to miss most of the season for Nate's beloved Celtics, who basically gave everybody away except Tatum and Brown this offseason. I saw Al Harrington, not Al Harrington, is it?
Horford.
Al Horford
to Golden State.
Golden State was watching the preseason game for them this year. Stephen A. got on ESPN and threw the jinx for my beloved New York Knicks. He said the New York Knicks are going to the NBA Finals. And he said it might be by default because Boston is hurt. A couple other things happened in their favor with Tyrese Halliburton being injured. Not that you wish anything like that on anybody, but realistically,
look, Detroit. Detroit gonna be tough there. A lot of people ain't paying attention to Detroit this year.
But who do they have that's different from their team last year?
Who did they add? They added a veteran. I can't remember who it is.
I don't know who they added, but Detroit played the Knicks real tough.
They tried that old bad boy format.
Yeah. So each game came down to the wire. I'm not mad at Detroit. I think you still got to respect Cleveland in the East. But New York, Cleveland, and Detroit, off the top of my brain right now, would be the team.
That's who they added. Duncan Robinson, Karis LeVert. I don't know who Ronald Holland is.
Cleveland has to do what
Same roster
OKC
for real.
did last year to me, and that's prove it during the playoffs.
Cleveland.
That's how I view Cleveland. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
Cleveland
care
got to
what the
prove it in the
regular
playoffs.
season record is. Like, you got to prove it in the playoffs, like OKC did. So in the Western Conference, is it OKC's to lose again?
Yep, definitely is.
I don't see Denver being.
It's between OKC and Dallas right now.
Is Kyrie back?
He'll be back in a couple weeks, actually.
So you got Kyrie.
Back to January. He won't be back to January.
I thought it was November. I thought they said they pushed him up.
No, he January.
It's still January? Okay, never mind.
So you got Kyrie, Cooper Flag, Anthony Davis.
Oh, Cleveland. I forgot Lonzo Ball went to Cleveland.
Dallas going to be tough. I think.
With or without Kyrie?
Yeah, I Denver going to be there. I think this Anthony Edwards year to be MVP.
It is.
I can see him being MVP.
Minnesota's gonna be tough.
I still can't count out them. I can't count out Golden State, man.
Yeah, they over the hill gang right now, though.
I mean, they old, but old brings wisdom. And I just think a full year with Butler, Curry, I like the pickups. I mean, I think figuring out what they're gonna do with Kuminga come January is gonna be tough. He don't want to be there, but
I think they go ship him out. My bad.
I mean, I think so too, but they got a real good team to me, man.
They do. I ain't gonna hold you.
I believe
Al
you.
Horford was the difference.
I believe you, but I'm sticking with what I said when they won in 22. When I said that they would, I said I think this is the last hurrah for that group.
It might be. It might be. It might be, but
because they got to stay healthy the whole year too. Curry has had some knick-knack injuries as well. Draymond,
and we can't forget about Houston either. That Kevin Durant pickup was a good pick.
That's the X factor, man. And seeing what they do. I believe,
and he's really there just to do what he does best, and that's score the basketball. They got their defenders.
But they did use.
What happened when they
lost to Brooks, but they got Thompson. They got my one guy that I like. I can't think of his name right now, but Houston just needed Kevin Durant to score, and that's what he does best. So
they lost their best.
And I forgot Clay was in Dallas too. Yeah, you just reminded me.
Who was their best defender?
Brooks.
No, he wasn't.
You don't think so? Nah, Thompson was.
Thompson is their best defender. Then they got the one. They got the one dude that looked like you, bro. What's his name?
Hey man, chill, bro. What's wrong with you?
I can't think of old boy name, man. But he's
solid.
Man. I'm sorry. I forgot it was live. I'm sorry.
And before we get up out of here, let's talk about that other team, the 17-time NBA World Champion.
What about him?
What you mean? The decision part 2.
That was terrible. I don't even know why he did.
Stephen A. said that.
I'll talk to y'all later, bro. I ain't about to talk.
You ain't gonna talk about the Lakers, man?
No, y'all know.
We don't need to.
Why are we not talking about the Los Angeles Lakers?
The Lakers are the joke of the NBA right now because of LeBron doing that as well.
The Lakers finished with the 3rd seed in the Western Conference last year before their meltdown in the playoffs.
Oh, shoot. Hold on. Houston added Capella.
See, he's trying to pivot away. So
nobody's pivoting away. What you want to talk about with the Lakers?
The Los Angeles Lakers have LeBron James. They have Luka Doncic.
Okay, who else?
They added DeAndre Ayton over the offseason in the post.
He don't even want to play basketball.
Okay, so you say. Now, I'm just saying that they will be part of that mid group in the Western Conference. I think competing for the 4th and 5th seed.
anywhere from 5 to not make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad you're leaning toward the Knickerbockers this season because you ain't leaning towards these Lakers.
Well, you still have to discuss them. Like the bottom line, you can't just
Why?
say not
We could
because
have
it's
spent more
Lakers.
time on my Celtics because you just
What do
dribbled
you
over
mean?
there.
They gave away their whole team.
No, we didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, we
I
didn't.
gave away Holiday, Horford gone.
Porzingis is gone.
Porzingis is gone.
That's 3 people.
Sound like the whole team to me.
We got Anthony Simon. We signed him.
I mean, other than y'all two main,
Brown.
other than y'all
got
two
Jason
main guys, that sound like the whole team to me.
We got Sam Hauser. We still got key pieces. We still got Peyton Pritchard. We still got key pieces.
Oh, okay.
I think the New York Knicks acquired.
I've been up since 4 o'clock, man. I'm not listening to Nate.
I think the Knicks acquiring Jordan Clarkson was better than anything the Celtics did this offseason.
True.
and not giving up anybody.
Well, I don't know, man. Jordan Clarkson been in Utah.
He better be going for 6 man. He better not be starting.
Jordan Clarkson been able to focus on basketball in Utah. He in New York now.
Yeah, it's over with.
He might go to Dykeman or one of them clubs. It might be over for Jordan Clarkson.
He about to be a club promoter. What you mean?
With them Dave East braids he got going.
A tattoo promoter and a club promoter in the same week.
You could have bought her a pizza.
That's what he gonna be on that Mace. Gonna be on that Mason Cam.
So the last thing I want to talk about finally is the inside the NBA that's going to be taking place on Disney at this point. I say Disney because that's who owns ESPN and makes those decisions.
They gonna be skinning their teeth.
Man,
I don't know.
Sir Charles on ESPN.
The reason why I said if they let Pat McAfee get away with what he get away with, they should
That's
let
true.
Charles.
That is true.
Charles and Pat McAfee ain't Chuck, so let him rock.
I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be.
It ain't gonna be as bad as it used to be, but it's still gonna be bad.
But you know they I don't know if y'all know, but they took majority of that TNT staff and took them over there.
But see, this is another thing you got to realize too, though. ESPN doesn't want to ruin that show. They know what that show was bringing. They know what's going to do.
They took majority
of
that.
So I don't think they want to look at that show and be like, it got over here and got bad. So I think they might let it rock.
If it make dollars, it makes sense. If people like it, they ain't gonna say nothing.
Yeah.
The majority of that TNT staff has gone to ESPN. Everybody that was on the inside the NBA is going over there too.
I know that, but you know when we'll find out when Wemby is playing and the San Antonio Spurs are playing. That is when we'll find out if everything is gonna remain the same with that show.
About the women in San Antonio,
bro. Do y'all see what they let Pat McAfee do on Saturday morning for college football?
No, forget Saturday morning. What they let him do weekly on his show.
I know, but I'm still saying college football. Man, listen, it's
okay. College game day has gotten a little edgy because you got Pat McAfee, you got Coach Saban, who don't give a damn and will drop his F-bombs and everything that he want to say on there. So. Again, and I'm not going to get into the differences. I'm just saying we'll find out what San Antonio plays, and Shaq is sitting there egging Chuck on, wanting him to say what he wants him to say.
Go ahead and say what you got to say, Chuck.
When he talks about certain inhabitants of San Antonio and them churros.
And them churros.
Shaq is Will, bro. Will, he be egging people on, bro.
Shaq be waiting for it.
Hey, bro,
and you know the way Shaq laughs, he knows it's true.
Make it 10 times worse.
Because
Will
he went
Johnson
to high
got
school.
That laugh that make it 10 times worse.
He went to high school in San Antonio, so he knows what Chuck is talking about.
All right.
So,
because if you notice, every time he said, Chuck, what you got to say?
Shaq don't even have to say nothing. Shaq just laugh and everybody laugh. Like soon as you see Shaq get
that's
weak.
Will Johnson. What do you mean? That's Will.
I I know. That's why I said what I said. But he want to act like I'm ruining his character, but that's fine.
Will's always had timing, also, man.
Yeah, that's a fact.
With
All right.
part of his jokes. So I want to thank everybody who tuned in today. Please remember to subscribe to the Factual Opinions Podcast YouTube page, Instagram, and the new Facebook page as we fight Meta to get back our old page. Remember, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music for those that are listeners and want to prefer to listen via audio. This was a really productive show. I want to thank Coach Cam for stopping by. As usual, y'all, we're going to try to do it better the next time. Tony, quit being a hater. And we'll see y'all next episode.
For sure.